Alright, gonna try to do a quick speed run almost of a crafting guide for Archmage Hierophant guy. A couple things to note. I'm just gonna be going over kind of like the higher investment, more min-maxed crafting stuff because that's where the crafting gets a lot more involved. Um, it may not be all of like the purely best methods because like if you're in trade league, the costs of certain things can change. If you're in solo self-found, you just have limited access to whatever you have access to. But this is like how I've crafted my items and how I'm going to craft the ones that I haven't done yet. And I'm going to be utilizing Craft of Exile's emulator tab feature to kind of show off stuff to visualize it as I'm going through it. So I'm going to try to do it as quick as possible. A lot of people have been asking about the crafting stuff. These videos usually take a really long time because there's a lot, but I'm going to try to do it quickly. But I also don't have any notes, so we're just gonna YOLO it. Wands first. I have one wand that's quite good. It's not like perfect or anything yet, and then this one was just one I've had for a while. But if we look at this one, it has tier 2 flat mana, it has a deafening essence of spell damage, and then it has a small hybrid roll. It's basically getting the prefixes is the way. My plan for like ultimately crafting is going to be alt spamming for tier 1 flat mana and tier 1 flat hybrid or tier 1 hybrid spell damage and recombinating to make a wand with both of those mods, and then just whatever exalt if I have to make it a 4 mod and then fractured. Basically, I'm just trying to get both of them recombinated onto the same wand to increase the fracture odds, and I just want one of those mods fractured. And then after that, I would just spam deafening essences until I hit like the other mod. So let's say I hit a flat mana fracture, I would spam essence until I hit like a good tier of hybrid spell damage. And then from there I can go to here. We'll make a new item. One hand weapon, wand. Doesn't matter what base I pick right here really. So see if I can remember how to do this. Yes, we can just add the mod so it would have spell damage. It wouldn't really have that much, but whatever. It's like a mana roll. It's another mana roll. And then there's your prefixes. From there, it's pretty simple. You're just going to lock prefixes. This is the first step here. And then reforge speed or reforge caster. Let me see which one's better. I don't think it matters. I don't remember exactly though. Oh, this doesn't show the weight. Let me pull up PoEDB. This is easier for me to read. One hand weapon, wand. So if we look at speed modifiers, it's 5 point. It's like a 1 and 3. Okay, yeah. So I think it's caster. Yes, caster's like a 50-50. Been a while. So we would lock prefix, and then reforge caster. And that's going to give you either cast speed or spell crit. If you don't hit, you would just recraft the prefix lock. Keep doing this until if you hit a 6 mod, you might brick and you might have to start over from essencing if you don't hit the annul. But eventually, you'll hit, okay, just hit like tier 1, perfect. And then from there, the next step would be multi-modding it, locking the prefixes again, and then a veiled orb, veiled exalt. You hopefully don't get rid of the cast speed like that, because again, otherwise you're screwed. But once you hit it, then you're gonna go back to your bench. You need to remove this craft. You need to go to the veiled modifiers list to see which ones to block before unveiling. I think it's dot multis, has a total weight of 4,000. You would craft any dot multi onto the item. Okay, that's not a crafted version, but whatever. You do the bench craft version, and then you unveil, and hopefully you hit a double damage mod. Didn't hit it there. If you miss that, then I think you have to lock prefix annul and hope that you get rid of the unveil instead of the cast speed. There you go. There's double damage while focused. And then this was a bench mod. And then you would just craft the other double damage mod on the bench. If you hit double damage while focused, you craft double damage. If you hit double damage, you craft double damage while focused. And that's a full 6 mod wand. If you don't want to do the craziness on the suffixes like that, what you can do instead that's much cheaper, and it's what I did on my current one. Basically, you get to this point, and you just go straight into the prefix lock veiled, and you can use a veiled chaos. Again, you would craft a dot multiplier, and then you would unveil. And now there's a chance you can hit cast speed here as well, but you still ideally would get a double damage roll. But if you whiff this, you just get to lock prefix veiled chaos again. Yeah, there. So then you'd hit that. You would then block whatever suffix you want int. And just like hit it with an exalt for the last mod. Hopefully you hit something good, you probably won't, and then just like benchcraft cast speed. Yeah, those are the 2 ways for the wand. It's mostly about the suffixes, prefixes. Also on the prefixes, you could, in theory, maybe just triple recombinate for triple prefix. I don't know a lot about recombinating this league and how much it's changed and how bad it is. And how hard it is without like the stuff we had last week with the shenanigans of like crafting a bunch of bench mods to recombinate all that. But potentially instead of getting a fractured base, you could just get triple recombinated prefixes. I still need to look into that one. That's wand. All right, next rings. Honestly, rings are like really good to buy for the most part if you are in trade league. But if you had to craft one, I mean, we're looking for cast speed, we're looking for life, we're looking for some resistances, or like dexterity, like this one has. Whatever, just the suffixes that you need. You might have dex on like other pieces of gear that you might not need on rings. Depends what you need. There's 2 ways to go about it. You either get one that's not fractured, if you want to use a Crusader Exalt for the final prefix, which can be really good. Or if you did get one that's fractured, like if this had fractured life, I could very easily do veiled prefix and get the unveiled version. I shouldn't say very easily, but you could get the unveiled version of the mana, which is a slightly higher mana, slightly higher reduced cost. But you can't use the Influence Slam. So let's say, I mean, I don't think you're crafting these unless you get a fractured base. You're not crafting from scratch unless you get like a fractured life base. Really? You might get one with like suffixes but bad prefixes. If you get one with just suffixes and bad prefixes, then we can do it this way. Jewelry, ring. Let's say we have a ring that has cast speed, it has dual res, whatever it may be, right? Like that. I mean, this one's as simple as you lock suffix. If you are in trade league or if you just have access to them, instead of bench crafting suffix can't be changed, you can purchase the wild bristle matron beasts, which if you have a 3 suffix item, the only meta mod they can add, this beast adds a random meta mod from the bench. If you have a 3 suffix item, the only thing it can add is suffix can't be changed, and these are usually slightly less than 2 divines, which is what the benchcraft costs. You do that either way, however you do it, and then you literally just reforge life on harvest here. Reforge life, and this one's kind of cursed. Of course, the simulator hits tier 1 life first try, but see at this point, I would legitimately just hit it with the Crusader Exalt and craft mana. If you hit a bad life roll, you just lock suffix, reforge again. Yeah. This one hit some lightning damage. Ideally, you want to hit. I think percent spell damage is best, and I think you can also get life on hit with spells. I don't think the flat's that great, but it still would be something. And then you would just benchcraft the mana mod to finish it off, right? And that is rings. If you have, let's go back. If you have a ring with a fractured base, you have fractured life, right? Fractured life roll. We need to regal this because it's not going to let me do other crafts, I think. Now we want cast speed. We want whatever else. Ideally here, you're probably looking. It depends on what you need. Like whatever. If you need Res suffixes, then you might just have to like chaos spam or something and just wait for good suffixes. If you can get Dex on the ring, then that helps a lot. You can use like Dex Essence potentially. If you need Chaos Res, you can harvest Reforged Chaos. So let's do that one as an example. Harvest Reforged Chaos is guaranteed Chaos Res. It's not guaranteed good Chaos Res, but it's guaranteed Chaos Res. So what we would be looking for here and in any of these other cases is you basically want whatever good suffix you're looking for, and then either no other suffixes or only other suffixes that are actually like useful. So it's like this hit really good Dex. If this had hit good Chaos Res and I needed Dex, the mana on kill ruins it, so I would have to try to annul it off. Right? But you would just keep going. See, this one's pretty good. Let's say T2 Chaos Res, all res. Hit the annulment orb, but it misses again. Let's try Essence. Let's say we wanted Dexterity, right? Dexterity, we can just keep slamming. There you go. Big all res. Again, strength is bad though. We got to get rid of that. Okay, we got rid of it. So now you get to this point. Once you have this kind of situation, you are going to lock the suffixes. The life is already locked in place because it's fractured, and then you can reforge caster on your harvest bench, and it is guaranteed cast speed always. Not guaranteed good cast speed, but guaranteed cast speed, right? And so now you would have this situation. You have your triple suffixes, whatever you're trying to get, but you're almost always going to finish with cast speed. It technically you could even do like you could have just one suffix, like just the dexterity, and kind of be really stupid about it. Where this is like pretty divine orb inefficient, I would say. But you could like reforge chaos. That's guaranteed chaos res, but it might add a third suffix. That's why it's bad. But let's say you do it this way for whatever reason, and then you eventually hit something that's like not ruined. Now it's got, yeah, see that, and then again you would just, now you're back into the reforge caster or cast speed. But either way, you get your suffixes, whatever they may be. You need at least one open prefix because again you're gonna lock the suffixes, and then in this case I'd probably go for the Veiled Chaos, right? Because it has a bricked mod anyway. You could go for the Veiled Exalt because then you know it won't hit a random 6 mod. Veiled Chaos has a chance of making it a 6 mod, which is potentially unsalvageable if you miss the YOLO annulment orb. But in this case, we'd probably do that. Veiled Prefix. We want mana cost. This one's kind of tough to hit because there is a lot of mana modifiers on the ring unveils, and you can only get one of them, right? Well, life can't show up because it already has it. And then, I mean, you just block one of these. You just block fire damage and cold damage, I guess. Doesn't really matter. But you really would want this one, yeah, the reduced cost. But see, now from here, it's a fractured base, so you can't influence slam it. But this is a really good ring at this point. In the last mod, you probably just benchcraft whatever you want to put on. Maybe just percent damage prefix. Yeah, kind of just whatever. That is ring. All right, next. Moving on, belt. There's so many ways to craft belts. It's basically a tri-res belt with life, mana, and percent life. There's so many ways to do it. I kind of always hate all of them. I don't know. I feel like I always have bad luck crafting belts specifically, and they eat tons of currency. But maybe that's just they do that. Um, this one, how I crafted this one is it started off. I did the prefixes first on this, which is basically alt spamming for tier 1 life and tier 1 mana belts, and then just using the recombinator to recombinate to make a belt with tier 1 life and tier 1 mana. And then it'll have one or two dead suffixes that don't really matter. But at that point, you just need to, if it has like less than two suffixes, we can go here at this point. Create new item, belt. So we have tier 1 life. We have tier 1 mana. When we recombinated these, we got like some random garbage suffix. We didn't get a second suffix though. We need to fill the suffixes out so we can hunter slam. So the way to do that, we have to benchcraft a prefix so that we don't slam a prefix because that would be bad. Doesn't matter what you craft, just literally anything. Exalt once to hit a second suffix. Now switch the benchcraft to a benchcrafted suffix. Again, doesn't matter what. And now the suffixes are full. Now we can hunter slam. And we are praying for percent life. Hit tier 2. I mean, that's probably a keeper. If you really are greedy, if you hit at any point once you hit this slam, you're probably either, if you hit tier 2 life, you're probably just settling. If you hit like chaos damage or whatever, and you're in trade league, you're probably just like selling that belt and starting over. To be honest. But either way, you hit your prefixes. Prefixes are done. So now, time for the meta crafting. Lock prefix. And then, let me look at my item and remember what I did with this. Right, yeah. Step 1 is lock prefix and reforge chaos. Guaranteed chaos res. That is a crazy build. So that's not what we want. This would be actually really bad because it hits 6 mods, and I need to annul it now, and it could get rid of a prefix and ruin the item. Which is exactly what happened. Exalt back, pray for the mana to come back. At that point, you're either selling the belt or doing some sort of crafting on a Stygian base. I don't like crafting on the Stygian bases. I like getting the life from a slam and then never touching the hunter mods again. Like, let's see. Let's say you don't whiff it. Okay, if this happened, wow, you're in a great spot. You just hit a second res. Now you can just benchcraft a res and you're done, right? But let's say that's not what happened, right? You need to salvage it again now. So now we just lock prefix again, reforge chaos again. That's really bad chaos res. So let's go again. That's bad chaos res. Go again. That's not bad. It's got a decent res again randomly. There you go. Pretty good chaos res. Next up is unveil. We need unveiled res. So we're gonna multi-mod it and lock prefixes. This is just to make it so there's 2 mods to pick from for our veiled exalt. It has a lower chance of ruining our chaos res. Click that. All right, we hit it. We need to remove the prefix, can't be changed. And then we need to block a suffix before unveiling. If we go to belts, we're going to be blocking a hybrid attribute suffix, because if we scroll down in here, you can see these weights on CraftFXL too. I'm more used to using PewDB to find them. This one's kind of weird. So you see all these ones with a 1500 mod weight. The whole thing about blocking is you want to block the highest total weight. But the thing is, these ones right here, they actually end up sharing, because any of these hybrid stats you craft are going to actually block both of these sections. So it's a total of 1800, so it's slightly better. So you just craft any hybrid attribute, strength dex, dexint, strengthen it, whichever one. And then hit your unveil, and we are hoping for a resistance. We did not get it. I mean, I was hoping for a resistance on my body armor and I didn't get it, and I got this freaking ES regen thing. It's honestly not a terrible mod if you don't need res. But if you need res, at that point, you're gonna have to annul and hope you don't kill your chaos res. You might have to start over on getting more chaos res again. but you hit your res, and then you're done. You just benchcraft the last mod. Good to go. Belt done. Alright, boots and helmet are pretty simple. It's getting life fractures and then clicking essences until you get suppression. So like the boots that I'm using right now specifically, I need ailment avoidance because that's what I went for on mine. And so you can say I fractured life and I need suppression as well. So we go in here. We have a pair of boots with pure dex or dex int. I just went with pure dex because it's way easier to hit the suppression on, and the small amount of ES or evasion or whatever doesn't matter. And I knew that I was probably going to be bench crafting the mana roll anyway. So it being pure dex is fine because we can just craft it there. The base doesn't really matter much. Not on prefixes. Alright. Max life, tier 1. It is fractured. So again, here we need to... We're going to essence. I needed Essence of Loathing. And it's just literally spamming Essence of Loathing until tier 1 or maybe tier 2 if you can use tier 2. It depends. You have to check your own suppression stuff and see what you actually need. You might be able to get away with tier 2 on one of the items. You might not be able to. It depends. But either way, you're just spamming until you hit suppression. It can take a while. There's a kind of lower tier. But either way, you spam until you hit it. Say we got it like that. If there's another random suffix, you need to annul it. Hope for the best. Otherwise, you're just, you know, back to essence spamming. But once you get open suffix, you kind of have two options here. And it kind of depends on what resists you need. Like, if you're in a situation where you kind of need, like, a hybrid unveiled res to get your resist where you want, then you would go for veiled res. If not, you would go for, like, just locking the suffixes and Reforge Chaos or some Reforge Elemental. Depends on what you need. In any case, I don't think you would want to use a Veiled Exalt. They're probably too expensive for this part. If you wanted Veiled Res, let's do that first, right? You have to lock suffixes, and then I think you would just Veiled Chaos. The problem here is there's a chance that when you click this Veiled Chaos, it can add a Veiled Prefix, but then also add a random suffix. Let me see. Like that. I mean, that one just happened to hit Fire Res, but if that was like a bad mod, then that's not good, right? Alternatively, you could do Veiled Exalts, which can't do that, but they're way more expensive per try. And then you just hit your Unveil and you hope for a hybrid res. Very cool. If you don't want a Veiled res and you just want a regular res, then you just Harvest Reforging with Suffix Lock. And Chaos res is guaranteed to give you, or Chaos Reforge is guaranteed to give you Chaos res, Lightning's guaranteed to give you Lightning, whatever. All that, you know. You pick which one you want. I mean, the other ones don't matter because you can swap them anyway. It's pretty common to do Chaos Reforges just because Chaos res is kind of harder to come by generally, so whenever you can kind of guarantee it like that is really nice. But yeah, you get whatever res you need, depending on the state of your character. Now your suffixes are done. At this point, this item is very safe. Because it's a pair of boots, like boots, gloves, chests, helmets, whenever you're doing Eater or Exarch influences, like now that we have the suffixes, even if we screwed something up and got all 6 prefixes, we could use the Eldritch Annulment Orbs to guarantee to null a prefix, and our suffixes are safe forever, which is really great. But yeah, here, the easy finisher here is just lock suffix and Veiled Chaos, and you're just getting a Veiled movement speed roll. You want to benchcraft mana. I don't even think it matters. I think at this point you're already guaranteed to hit prefix, or guaranteed to hit movement speed, but of some sort. Which one you want is, you know, whatever, up to you. But then yeah, you get that, and then you just benchcraft mana to finish it out, and that's boots. Helmet is more or less the exact same thing. You can see on my helmet I actually have Veiled Res suffix because I needed I needed it because I needed a little bit of chaos and a little bit of an elemental to get my res kind of where I was hoping to put it. Uh, but it's the exact same process. I don't really need to show that one. This one I needed dexterity, so I spammed dexterity essences until I hit suppression. Since I unveiled res on a suffix, that means I can't do any sort of veiled prefix shenanigans, so I just used like a couple Eldritch Chaos Orbs, just rolling for a random useful prefix before bench crafting mana. Just finish it out with like Eldritch Chaos, or I mean you could lock suffix Exalt, Scour, whatever. Doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, the helmet's the same process essentially as the boots overall. And then finally the body armor, which is a bit of a doozy. So the big thing I wanted on the body armor from this one is tier 1 suppression. I want that essence suffix, the reduced extra damage from crits per endurance charge. And then I just want a bunch of ES and evasion. Mine has regenerate 200 ES per second. I didn't want that. It happened, which I'll get to through the craft process. And body armor, there might be better ways to craft this one, especially with like going heavier into recombinating. I don't really know yet about recombinating this league of those kind of specifics, but this one is started off by alt spamming for suppression and then using essences to get the essence mod and recombinating those two mods. You get a chest with tier 1 suppression and the essence mod and an open suffix. That's where I started it. There's a chance that it's also even worthwhile to recombinate even more and say add like tier 1 flat ES evasion, because the high tier flat ES evasion is the thing that ends up being tricky here later down the road. But I'm just going to show how I did mine for this one, since I don't know exactly how the recombinating stuff goes this league in every specific, but we know this one works. So again, you alt spam for suppression, you essence mod for the essence, and you recombinate. So then eventually you'll have a chest with suppression. It will have the essence mod. It'll have some prefixes. They don't matter. As long as it has an open suffix, you're kind of just good to go. At this point, you probably want to use Veiled Exalt because you don't really want to end up with a random filled out suffix. I mean, you could also, you could go for a Veiled suffix. You could go for just a regular resist. It depends. It depends on what you need resist wise. You maybe could even take this and recombinate it with some other chest that has dexterity on it. If you need dexterity on your chest, that would just be another recombinate step because you can't force dexterity on this with any of the crafting. But assuming you need like a resist, locking suffixes, and again, you could either Veiled Chaos and hope for a Veiled Suffix like that one just hit. You can do it with a Veiled Exalt if you don't want to risk bricking the third suffix. If you just need, you know, actual Chaos Res, you can do Chaos Reforge. If you need an Ele Res, you can do an Elemental Reforge, whatever. You're going to get your third suffix. Whatever it is you need, depends on your build, depends on your setup. Currently, let's see. So my guy has a Veiled one, right? And yeah, there's a risk with Unveil where you're just not going to get the mod you want. But there's also a risk with the Reforges where you're going to get a really bad tier of the mod, right? Like, I don't like any of these, really. Some people actually do say they like the recover mana and ES on focus. So, like, if you wanted that, it's great, right? But, like, when I did mine specifically, I was really hoping for a resistance roll. Which I'm not even seeing on any of these right now. But, there you go. Either way, you get your suffixes. And then, this is where this gets kind of cursed. And why I say that there might be some better method that involves more recombinating so that you hopefully don't have to do this. Because we are going to lock these suffixes and just reforge defense probably a bunch of times. You need to hit flat ES evasion because you cannot bench craft the flat ES evasion roll. You can only craft like ES or evasion for whatever reason. And honestly, I was going to settle for like tier 1 or tier 2. I ended up getting a pretty good chest. It took a lot of divine orbs to do it You can see there's a lot of defense modifiers you can hit. It is quite tough. However, if you get a triple prefix item, again, you can use the Eldritch Annulment Orb. You just put Exarch Influence, and you'll be safe. Your suffixes are like locked in forever, which is the one nice thing about this. Okay, there you go. Finally, oh wow. That's some craziness. It actually hit tier 1 flat and tier 1%. Let's remove the percent roll. Let's say you finally got like your flat roll. At this point, it's kind of scary. If you don't have a veiled suffix and you want some random veiled prefix, you would have to know that you want this yourself. And you know that you want a specific veiled prefix on your chest, you could lock suffix and veiled exalt and 50-50 gamble that you don't lose this T1 mod you just got. What I went for instead was just legitimately bench crafting life so that I couldn't exalt life, and then just exalting the item. Mana is fine if it hits good. Any of the other ES evasion rules. Hybrid life with anything is kind of bad because it messes with the life mastery. Okay, so sure, whatever. You hit mana, you hit whatever you hit. And then you finish it off by bench crafting ES evasion, right? Sorry, let me find the bench crafted version. Now, if you want, like, it's tough. If you want specifically this essence mod and suppression, it's really hard to get, like, super, super crazy good on the prefixes on these. Outside of, like, heavy... Like, last league, it was doable, because you would just recombinate into a 5-mod item. And it might end up being the case that that's, like, a thing that we can still do this league, and it's, like, not the worst thing ever. I don't know. We'll have to see. Or, like, maybe a 4-mod. But until we know that for sure, that's kind of where you're going. You're probably going to end up with either weaker prefixes, or if you don't go for... if you don't care about this essence crit suffix, your life is a lot easier. It's not really cheaper, but it's easier. Because in that case, all you care about is you are going to get suppression on your chest. It is going to be fractured. And you are going to become friends with the dense fossil. And you are just going to be spamming dense fossils until you get a really good set of prefixes. This is actually pretty good on the first click. T2, T2, T2. But yeah, that's basically, you just do that. And then you would finish the suffixes out by like locking the prefix and reforging for whatever res or whatever you need. But you can't get the essence mod from this point. That's the only downside. Alrighty. Anyway, body armor done. That's crafting. Still ended up over half an hour. I tried to go through it quick. These crafting things, like, again, to get all the information that's actually useful and needed, there's a lot, man. But that's the crafting for the endgame gear and stuff. Hope video is helpful. Hope you made it to the end, because that's a lot of rambling. Thank you for watching. See ya.